friends. I'm Amy. I'm the Globetrotting Stitcher. Happy to be back with you today. If this is your first time finding us, welcome. I hope you enjoy what we're doing here. And if you're a returning friend and subscriber, welcome back. We appreciate that out of all the Flosstube videos out there, that you spend a little of your time with us every couple of weeks. So a couple of quick updates on what we've been up to, and then we'll get into some really good stitching with you today. So first of all, I have started, I know it might seem a little early, but I have already started planning my 2024 new starts and have been starting to kit those up, which is always a fun and exciting time of year, thinking about what it is I'm going to work on over the next year. I really enjoy that process, and it certainly reinvigorates my love for stitching, which Gary will tell you doesn't need any help. But at any rate, that's part of what I've been doing. So as a part of that, I actually, in the last couple of days, I took a day off work to drive down to the Portland area to visit Acorns and Threads. So we don't have a wealth of local needlework shops around us here. And I wanted to do, I'm doing a small floss conversion on one of the charts that I've decided to stitch next year. And the called for flosses are really pretty, but they're fairly muted and definitely look different than the colors on the front of the chart. And so I wanted to color match, and so I needed to be there in person. So drove down to Acorns and Threads to do a little bit of color matching and pick out some flosses. And while I was there, I was actually at the front desk checking out with my selections when someone came up to me and said, "Amy, is that you?" And I was like, "Yes." And it was really great because I got a chance to meet one of our viewers. So her name was Debbie. Hi, Debbie. And she said that she and her daughter watch our channel and they really enjoy seeing what Gary and I are working on. And so it was a real pleasure to meet her. It's always a little bit like you're not expecting, when you're just kind of going about your day, you're not expecting to meet like another stitcher in the wild who watches you. And so it's always really fun when that happens. And it's a nice surprise. And so, yeah, it was just really great. It was short and sweet because I was wrapping up and she had some shopping to do, but we just chatted for, very briefly for a minute or two. And, anyway, it was a real pleasure. Debbie, I'm so glad you stopped to say hello and introduce yourself. That always gives me a lot of joy when I get to meet a stitcher who watches our channel. So thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. On the subject of Flosstube and stitching, I wanted to share a little bit of news with you. Most of you have probably heard this already, but just in case you missed the news bulletin, one of our favorite Flosstubers is back and filming again. So many of you, I'm sure, are friends and fans of Chris from Chris Cross Stitch. And over the better part of the last year, life happens to all of us. And he had a lot of transition and change going on in his life. And so he took a bit of a hiatus from filming. But he is back, and I am so, so excited to see him back. So he and his partner have relocated across the country over the last year. And it just seems like watching, he's put out 2 short videos recently and just kind of sharing updates and some of his plans for the next year. And he just seems like he's in a really good place. And anyway, it was just such a delight to see him again. So if you haven't discovered Chris, run, do not walk. His channel is wonderful. His videos are wonderful. He's like the consummate Southern gentleman, and has spent a lot of time in the entertainment industry. He's done a lot of work on the stage. And so he's got a great camera presence, as you would expect, but he's just like a kind soul. Many of us think of Chris as the Mr. Rogers of Flosstube because he's just a very kind spirit. He's got that kind of vibe, like if you went to his house to visit him, he'd take you out to the veranda and he'd give you a mint julep, and you guys would sit there and cross stitch and reminisce about people you know and love. And that's very much the feel of Chris's channel. He's got beautiful stitching, but it's just like a warm hug, and it's like coming home. And he shares a lot of stories about growing up in the South and his aunts and his grandma and the beautiful people that helped to shape him into the man he is today. And so, he's an absolute delight. And I think that the neighborhood of Flosstube is a kinder and more beautiful place because of him. And so, Chris, welcome back. It's great to have you. And then on the subject of floss tubers, I wanted to share a couple of new floss tubers that I've discovered in the last couple of weeks. So one is actually truly a new floss tuber. She's only got a couple of videos out. And the other is a new to me floss tuber. So I'll start with her. Her name is Cynthia, and her channel is in The Intuitive Stitcher. And Cynthia is actually... she's actually somebody who has left comments on several of our videos, and I've exchanged, comments with her through Flosstube. And I didn't realize that she had a channel of her own, and I just happened to stumble upon it recently and really enjoyed it. Very quickly subscribed. She stitches a lot of really beautiful things. So she does some full coverage. She does some fancy ladies. She's also stitched some really neat things she showed in her in a recent video. She does what's called sashiko, which is, I think, a Japanese kind of embroidery, where it's very symmetrical and geometric, and it's kind of these big designs. It reminds me a lot of black work, except it's larger and it's not quite so intricate. It's really beautiful. And so it was really neat to kind of see something that's a little bit of a different flavor. One of the other things I really liked about her, I don't know whether she works there or she just volunteers there, but she's involved with her local animal shelter. And so she talked a little bit about that in her recent video. And as Gary and I are the pet parents to 2 rescue dogs, we've got a big soft spot in our hearts for animal shelters and all the wonderful work that they do to give animals loving homes. And rescue them from difficult situations. And so go check out Cynthia's channel if you haven't found her, but I really enjoyed watching her. And then the other floss tuber is she's relatively new. She's only got a couple of videos out at this point, but her name is Jen and her channel name is The Harbor Stitcher. And one of the things that I found really exciting about Jen is that she actually lives really close to us. She's in the next town south of where we live. And so I am planning to reach out to her, leave a comment on her video and be like, hey, there's a whole bunch of other stitchers in the local community. I think she already knows some of us or some of them. I haven't had a chance to interact with her at all, but, I'm really hoping that she'll join us in some of our local stitching meetups and that I'll have a chance to get to know her, because it's always fun to connect with another stitcher who's local to you. So Jen is, she's also much like Cynthia, she has a very eclectic taste in what she is stitching. And so she's got some Silver Creek samplers on the go. She's working on an ink circles piece. She does do some full coverage. And she also was she's working on the Summer Quaker by Leela's Studio that everybody is working on right now because it's so beautiful. So she's also working on that. And then she does some quilting. So, if you haven't discovered Jen and Cynthia, that's again, the Harbor Stitcher and the Intuitive Stitcher, please go check out their channels. I will link them below along with Chris Cross Stitch. But 3 fantastic channels, and you won't regret giving some of your time to these stitchers because they're really great. So one last quick update before we get into some fully finished objects, and that is Gary mentioned, and I think I did as well in our last update, that I am going to be traveling again here soon. So this coming week, I'm headed to Tanzania for work. There's one of the big events of the ag development sector is coming up at the beginning of September. It's the Africa Food Systems Forum. And so it's a really fantastic opportunity to connect with, heads of state across Africa, or folks that work in the agriculture ministries, as well as other people that are working in the development space, partners and implementers. And it's a really big event. It's a really exciting event. And it gives us a chance to hear from African leaders about where they see agriculture going in their countries and where they want to go. And so I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a very busy week. So we'll see how much stitching I get done. Lots of business dinners and side meetings in addition to the forum events. So we'll see. But at any rate, that's going to be in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I haven't been to Tanzania since before the pandemic. So I'm looking forward to getting back. So that's another thing that's coming up here. All right. So with all of that, let's get into stitching. So Gary and I have some finishes and some fully finished objects to share with you. One of the things I mentioned in one of our recent videos is that I've kind of had to put some of my fully finishing on the back burner for a while because life has been busy and I had a bit of a backlog. And so I have been progressing through that. I'm making really good progress. And we'll continue to have more things to share with you in the next several videos until I get all the way through the backlog. But we've got 2 fully finished pieces to share with you today. So the first one is Gary's. And that is his Captain America. So I'm going to pull this up and show that to you. Gary, do you want to say a word or two about how Captain America turned out?
No.
Okay.
Looks fine.
Looks fine. With those inspiring words, my friends. So Gary stitched this on a piece of 16 count pewter Aida. This is a design by Awesome Pattern Studio. He used all of the called for DMC floss, and I think it turned out really cool. So Gary's been, I had mounted it and got it in the frame, but there was still a little bit of finishing to do, and I know he's itching to get this on the wall. So hopefully we can let him do that in the next week here. So. All right.
Yeah, it's done.
It's done. You could tell he's very excited about it. All right, that's Captain America. And then the next fully finished piece we have to share with you is mine. This is an oldie, kind of an oldie. I finished this last year in my seasonal part of my rotation. So this is Easter by the Cricket Collection. I stitched it on a piece of 36 count mocha linen by Color and Cotton. Most of the called for flosses, but I did switch out a few things. And so here is how it turned out. I'm so delighted with it. So this one has been in an almost fully finished state for a while now. I had ordered the frame several months back, and I actually had the stitching itself laced and mounted on my acid-free foam core. But I knew when I ordered my frame, I knew I wanted to use a nice spring-colored matte, and so after I had it mounted and I had the frame, I did take it to our local Michael's just to take a look at their matte selection. And I wasn't, mattes are one of those things that I don't order online because I'm a little bit picky about like getting the colors right, and I'm a little bit indecisive, and I need to kind of think about what's the right matte combo and, the right colors and matching everything up and all of that. And so I always do my mattes in person. Anyway, this matte set, I went to Michael's. They have obviously beautiful mattes. I buy a lot of my mattes for my finishing there, but they just didn't have anything that was like really singing my song. And so I ended up going to another small local chain that has a really great frame shop and found these mattes there, and I could not be happier with them. So I think they turned out really great. It's a really pretty, like just spring color palette, and I'm really sad that I have to put this away until next spring. But I'm excited to put it out on display when the time comes, and super, super thrilled with how it turned out. So Easter by the Cricket Collection. Okay. So that's it for fully finished objects for this week, but we also do have a finish to share with you. And I had kind of hinted at this in our last video. So I am working my way through the Bittersweet Trio chart pack by Waxing Moon Designs. In the last video, we showed you I had a finish on the the fox chart from that set of 3. And and I had made a start on the second of the charts, which was the crow. So I'm stitching all of these on a single piece of 36 count Bee's Knees linen by Seraphim Fabrics, using all the called for flosses. And so for the crow, like I said, the last time you saw it, it was a brand new start. And I had made just a little bit of progress, and I was hoping that I was going to have enough stitching time to get it finished. And I'm happy to say that I did. So here's how it turned out. Really happy with this. I think it's really cute, really pretty. I actually I'm pretty well set that when these are all finished, I think I want to frame all of them in like individual small frames. I have a wall in our dining room that is kind of becoming a bit of a a bit of a collage wall for like seasonal, more primitive style pieces. And I think it'd be really great for autumn to have a set of 3 small frames that I could intersperse in that collage to kind of create balance and break up, the big boxes of blocks of other stitching and kind of give a little bit more visual interest. And so I think these will be a nice addition to that, that overall look. And so I'm leaning in that direction. So haven't picked out the frames yet, but have started looking. Anyway, really like how the crow turned out. Again, there's this lovely little vine with berries on it that's kind of swirled around the pumpkin stack. Of course, the crow himself is super cute, and then the beautiful sunflowers. So that's how it turned out. I love it. I think it's a really cute design, and I am looking forward. I only have one left to finish up in this chart pack. And so really, these are quick stitches and they're a lot of fun to work on. Definitely more waxing moon designs are in my future. Okay, let's see here. All right. The next thing I will share with you, actually, we're going to move on to whips. That's it for finishes. So the first whip I'm going to show you is my travel stitching. Much like, not much like, never mind, words. For the better part of the last year, I have been working my way very slowly through a chart pack by Jeanette Douglas Designs, which is the Christmas cheer pin pillows. I've stitched 4 of them now, so I'm working on the 5th of 6 designs. And this is the Merry Christmas pillow. It's the largest of all the pillows. I'm stitching all of them on a piece of 36 count Stars Hollow Blend linen by R&R Reproductions, and I'm using all the called for flosses. So the last time you saw this particular design, I had stitched all of the border on the left-hand side, and I had just started working on the main part of the border on the top and the bottom. I had also done a few stitches on the inside border. So, oh boy, here we go. Here it is right now, complete with some specialty fibers contributed by Bear or Sophie. So here's where we are right now. Not a ton of progress, but decent progress. So you can see I've now got the main line of the top border all the way done, and I've stitched almost, I think I've actually all the way stitched down the left, or the right, excuse me, the right side border as well. I have put in more of this inner border. So still a long way to go, still a lot of like little elements to fill in here as far as like finishing the detail of the border, but it feels good to be kind of getting a feel for the shape of how this piece is going to look and how large it will be. So that is my progress on the Merry Christmas pin pillow. Okay, so the next whip I'm going to show you is my weekend stitch. I am working, I put a little bit of time every weekend into a design called Butterfly Port Mauve by Heaven and Earth Designs. I'm stitching this on a piece of 28 count white easy grid Lugana, and I'm doing this with a combination of half stitch and continental stitch. So over the last couple of weeks, I've managed to put in almost 850 stitches on this. And the last time you saw it, we were starting to get into more of the elements of the design itself and not just background. So we were seeing there's a little spray of flower buds, and we were seeing one of the first flower buds had been completed and filled in the background and was really standing out distinctly and looking good. Yeah, I think that was kind of like the most distinct way to describe where we were the last time you saw this. So here's where it is right now. All right, this one is always a little awkward to hold and share. So you can see I've now finished doing more of these flower buds, filled in the background around those, have stitched further down, and I'm working more so on this lower flower bud. The other thing that I've done is filled in more of the leaves over here just to the right of the flower buds. And then you can see over here, and this was exciting to me, over here there are some sort of ninja stitches. And these are actually, we're getting into the left side, the left wing of the butterfly. And so these are all kind of a part of that. So it was super exciting. We won't really get heavily into stitching that area for probably a couple of years because this is the whole different row of pages. But for me, it was really exciting to just have some initial stitches put into that area and feel like, oh gosh, I'm getting there. So that was really cool. But anyway, this is starting to really come along now. It's, for me, just exciting to get to work on it, exciting to see, it's definitely building my momentum to kind of get into these elements and not just be working in the background up here. But anyway, that is Butterfly Port Mauve by Heaven and Earth Designs. One thing I did want to mention about this piece is that if you haven't seen the most recent video from Jantina by Jantina Stitches, please go check it out. I will link her below. She's one of the Dutch stitchers that makes videos, and I love her channel. I never miss one of her videos. She's just super fun to watch. She stitches such beautiful things. And that group of stitchers actually last year started the ornament version of Butterfly Port Mauve, which is really, it cuts out a lot of the background and just really focuses on the central elements, with the butterfly and the flowers. And so Jantina on her last video showed not just a finish, but her full finish of that. She just like blasted through it, it seemed like. And it is so, 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 so beautiful. So if you have not seen it, go check it out because it is fantastic. It really got me excited to keep working on this for the next 30 years. So I'm sure it won't take 30 years, but go check out Jantina's finish because it's really beautiful. Okay, let's switch gears and let's hear from Gary about his project that he's been working on.
Well, I've only been working on one project and I haven't been working on the other project. So once again, I only have the one project to show you. This one is Louis Armstrong. It's by Stitching Jewels Designs, and it's stitched on 16 count white Aida. I still laugh at that every time. 16 count white Aida with black DMC. You could change out the DMC if you wanted to, but I would weigh that against whatever background color you're using. I'm using white. So this is what it looked like the last time you saw it, which was another period where I didn't do much. I didn't do much on it at all. I worked on the kind of top part there, and I'll put a graphic up that shows where I worked. But I actually did do some work on it since the last video, and this is what it looks like now. You can see I've kind of been working, going from right to left or whatever, and I'm still in this one. I'm still doing just 10 boxes. I know I did 20 boxes for the bottom, but the squares are so spaced out, or the cross stitches are so spaced out, it's easier for me to do like 10 by 10 and then go to the next 10 by 10 and then go up and do 10 by 10. That way there it's easier to keep count and not lose where I am, because this one relies heavily on making sure you get the count right. So anyway, that's where I am. I have a little bit more to do. If you look at the top part, I've got to finish a little bit of the top part of the horn, and then just off to the right of it, there's a section of like the part of the horn that's right there. I got to finish those two, which I'm pretty sure will be done by the time Amy gets back. So, anyway, so that's where I am on what is that again? Louis Armstrong. That's where I am working on the Louis Armstrong one. And as far as the other one goes, which is called, see, now I want to call it.
I know.
So somebody wrote us and said that they call theirs Women Who Don't Behave or something similar to that.
That's it, yep.
And now I'm like, I want to call it Women Who Don't Behave, but that's okay because they still made history. But that's sort of a long title. So we'll just call it Women Who Behave. I haven't touched that in almost a month now, I think. So there's nothing to report on that, but here's where it is now. So next time when you see it, it should look different. Anyway, so that's the status of my cross-stitch projects. Thank you.
Okay, I've got two more whips to show you, and the first of those is my wild card piece. So I am stitching Cabin Fever, which is a Dimensions Gold collection kit. I am using the kit fabric and floss, and that fabric is a very stiff 18 count Aida. It's like a cream colored Aida. So the last time you saw this, so I guess just to give some context, I almost always start my pieces in the top left corner and then work my way over and down. And that's what I did on this piece as well. And so that whole corner, and the piece itself has a lot of it's predominantly a green because it's a cabin in the woods. So there's a lot of green. And where I started stitching is in trees. And so a lot of what I had stitched so far was started really stitching in the tree canopy in that upper left corner. And then the last time you saw it, there was also there's a birch tree, and I had started stitching the branches and then getting down into a bit of the trunk of that birch tree. So here's where it is right now. So not too bad so far. So as you can see, I've stitched in quite a bit more of this tree canopy, moving both to the right as well as filling in going down. And as I've moved to the right, you can see that I've actually moved over into the sky and the clouds, which was really fun to kind of get into a different color palette. One other thing that was really exciting is I have now stitched all the way across the top of page 1 and begun stitching into page 2. So I'm over halfway across the entire design now, at least at the top here. And then I'm almost down to the halfway point here on the left-hand side in how far I've stitched down. So you can see as part of the fill-in, in addition to getting that done, I'm filling in more now of the branches and the trunk of this birch tree. I've done a little bit more of the back stitch, but not much, just because that fill-in takes quite a while to get done. But I'm really enjoying how this is coming along. It's going to be really pretty when it's done. It's going to be really pretty. So one of the things when we showed this in the last video, I think it was the last video, I had talked about how I made an executive decision about this design because I had decided that trying to stitch 5 and 6 strands of floss on 18 count was absolute insanity, and that I don't care what Dimensions says, I'm just not going to do it. So I had decided that I wasn't going to use more than 4 strands no matter what was called for. And so I had asked folks, am I the only person who does this? Do you all think I'm losing my marbles? And it sounds like instead of being, leading the charge and innovating, that I'm actually late to the party, because so many of you commented and said that, yeah, that's exactly what you do. You only use 3 strands or 4 strands at most, and it doesn't have any sort of negative impact on how the designs turn out. And so it's nice to know that not only am I not alone, but that that others have been doing this for a while, and the pieces all turn out beautifully. So at any rate, really, really having fun with this one, and looking forward to I'm really looking forward to the next time it comes up in the rotation, because I feel like as I'm getting more and more of that tree canopy filled in and getting into some of the other pieces of the design, it's just going to get more interesting to look at. I think also the backstitch is really high impact on this design. It's, and I think it's just going to add a lot and really bring a lot more visual clarity to this piece when I get a little bit more done and can really start bringing in more of that backstitch throughout. So, but that's where I am on Cabin Fever. Okay. And then the last whip I have to share with you is my Fancy Lady. So I am working on At the Met by Mirabilia. I am stitching this on a piece of 32 count Aztec red linen by Weeks Dye Works. And I'm using all the called for flosses and beads, with the exception, which we've talked about on past videos. I decided to stitch her skin 1/1, which was quite an undertaking, as you've already heard. And I decided to do a skin conversion on her and make her an African-American lady rather than a Caucasian lady. So the last time you saw her, I had hit a pretty big milestone where I had completely finished the stitching on the top half of the design. So the whole top half of the chart was done. But more importantly than that, I had finished all of the stitching in her skin. And so all of the 1/1 was done, which was, I'll tell you, that's given how much skin this woman has, that was a tedious process. 100% worth it, would do again. But it was really a joy to get past that and be done with it. So that's where I was the last time. Here's where I am right now. So super excited with the progress that I made. So as you can see, this archway or canopy or whatever it is that's kind of framing her in, I stitched all the way to the bottom of that and finished this sort of pedestal or base on the left-hand side. This is not the absolute bottom of the design, but it's really close to the bottom of the design. So we have a good sense of what her final height will be. As you can see, I also stitched in quite a bit more of her black gown and then quite a bit more of her beautiful, colorful sash here, which is really beautiful. There's a lot of beads in that sash, but it gives a nice bit of sparkle and brings out the richness of the colors. And I find her really interesting and kind of fun to stitch on because it's a nice shift in the palette as you're working to go from sort of this more tonal, blacks and grays into the bright colors and lots of, sparkle and variety in her sash. But I think she's really beautiful, really pleased with how she's coming on. And I was also very pleased with how much more visible progress I made on her because I didn't have, the heavy, intense stitching that doesn't, that just takes a lot longer to the 1/1. So that is my at the Met. All right, that is all for whips. So we just have one last thing to show you, and that is one more new start. Let's see here. Let me get myself a little bit organized over here. So as I mentioned earlier, I did finish my my crow in the Bittersweet Trio, and that allowed me to get a little bit of a new start on the final design in that set of in that chart pack, and that is the squirrel. And again, as a refresher, I'm stitching all of the Bittersweet Trio designs. And again, Waxing Moon designs, all of the Bittersweet Trio are being stitched on a single piece of 36 count Bee's Knees linen by Seraphim Fabrics. So this is my new start. Not too bad for a new start. It's a pretty decent showing. So as you can see, I've got almost all of the border in, and I've stitched most of the outline of our cute little squirrel here, started stitching on his sunflowers. So I'm probably going to jinx myself by saying this, but I'm really hoping that this little guy gets finished the next time he comes out, because I would love to have these all framed up and on the wall as a part of our fall decor. So yeah, looking forward to that. All right, that is it for stitching. I have one little bit of stitchy goodness to share with you before we call it a day and just finish up by talking about what we're going to be doing over the next couple weeks, stitching wise. So I may have a new hobby addiction. Hopefully not, but I have been contemplating for a while and wanting for a while. I should say, I love patchwork project bags, like many of you. I own several patchwork project bags, no doubt, like many of you, and I have been wanting for some time to make myself a patchwork project bag. So earlier this year, I actually made my very first project bag, and that was, I took some really cool African themed fabrics and I made a project bag for Gary as a part of his Valentine's Day present. And I really enjoyed making that bag, and I knew I wanted to make more bags, but I knew I wanted to make myself a patchwork project bag. And I actually, several months ago, I bought some fabrics, beautiful fabric line that I loved that I wanted to make a bag from, but I was a little bit just intimidated, and I haven't really had a lot of time to kind of do some research, see about finding some tutorials. I'm not a super experienced sewist or quilter or anything like that, and so I need to do some learning before I could do any making. And so recently,
I don't think sewist is a word, but
well,
you can go with that if you want.
I could say sewer, but then
Yeah.
but then like the visual of sewer, doesn't look like sewer, it looks like sewer, and I don't want to be called a sewer.
Sewist it is.
Sewist it is. Crafter who sews.
I'm an eatist.
You're an eatist.
Yes, I eat food.
You heard it here first, folks. So anyway, I discovered in kind of doing a little bit of looking around on what's available, I found a tutorial. I found a couple tutorials on how to make a patchwork project bag. And I still hadn't like bit the bullet yet because I was just like, oh, so much cutting and I don't have time and blah, blah, blah. And then this tutorial I found recently was showing how to use a mini charm pack to make a patchwork project bag. And it was like all the lights went on and I was like, that's so easy. It's all cut for you. And so I will link that tutorial below. It is by Tiger Lily Designs. But I made my very first patchwork project bag. And so this, I'll tell you a little bit about it, but let me show you how it turned out. You guys, isn't this fabulous? I just love it. So it's not perfect. If you were here in person, this is not a bag that is of the right quality to be sold. I could not sell this to anybody in good conscience. Depending on who the friend was and how tolerant they were of kind of little flubs and errors, I don't know if I would even gift this to anyone, but it's good enough. It's good enough for me, and I'm really happy with this as a first attempt. So so as you can see, I did my patchwork squares, and I actually changed up some things from the tutorial or what was shown in the tutorial because there were just some things that I wanted to customize for me, but it provided me with a really great base to start from. I like a bigger project bag, and the tutorial bag was much smaller than this. But so I love like the white kind of scroll. Words are so hard. These are words and they're like a scrolly font. But I love that on the black background, used a black zipper. And of course I have a nice little homemade, zipper pull here. So yeah, really, really love this. Love it. So let me tell you a couple more details about this bag. First of all, I'll show you the back. So I used the same white font on black fabric for the back. I probably, the next time I made a bag, wouldn't choose this for my backing fabric. I think it's a really nice complement, and it works really well with the patchwork on the front, but it's a lot of like dark on the back. But I love the words on here. It's like nice inspirational sayings like love, love, love. Remember when you go into the world, something or other. Keep your ears wide open and be kind. Give thanks for all your blessings. Listen and always do your best. So
enjoy your cheese.
It doesn't say that, but it should. It should definitely say that. So lots of nice little inspirational sayings. And then on the inside, I did, oh gosh, there's already a dog fur in there. This really pretty like peachy yellow sort of gingham check for the bag lining. So a couple of notes. The other thing is this bag is not only fully lined, but it's also got like the quilt batting on the inside. So this is a very sturdy bag. You could like put your child in here and keep it warm if you're going out in the winter. It's like really thick. So nice and sturdy. The technique was pretty easy. So the funny thing is when I was working on my bag, more than once I was finding myself thinking, oh, this is so much easier than I thought it would be. And like, if you've got a pulse and a sewing machine, you could totally make this bag. I've since revised that opinion. If you have a pulse, a sewing machine, a bucket of patience, and a seam ripper, you can make this bag. I think it was a good challenge for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with this kind of thing. The tutorial was easy to follow. I was able to make some customizations to make the bag bigger because that's what I wanted. But I also had some good learning, and I would do some things a little bit differently for future bags. So one thing is I wanted a little bit of a bigger, chunkier zipper. And the only big chunky zippers that were available at my local Joann's were these plastic sport zippers. So that's what I bought. And when I was ironing, some of you with more experience are going to see where this is going. I was ironing, not really thinking about anything. And I saw this like little black stuff on the fabric. And I was like, oh, was there something on my iron? Friends, I started to melt my zipper. Fortunately, I discovered it before the damage was extensive. I can still open and shut the zipper, but I had to like stop. I had to actually clean my iron with a baking soda paste to get all of the plastic off of the iron from the melted zipper. So there were some sentence enhancers, as Olivia from Pumpkin Hollow Quilts likes to say. I'm not going to tell you how many times I had to rip seams out, but it was at least 3. So yeah, it was a great learning experience. I'm still really delighted with how the bag turned out. And I will definitely be making future bags, but I love the fact that I could take a mini charm pack and get a beautiful patchwork project bag like this. This was really fun to make despite the sentence enhancers and needing to step away from it a few times. And I'm quite pleased with it. So there will be more patchwork project bags in my future. I may or may not have purchased a few more mini charm packs in other fabric prints that I really liked, along with, complementary fabrics to make more project bags. So we will probably share some of those as we go. I may also think, as I kind of perfect my own technique on this, just because I'm doing some things a little bit differently than were in the tutorials that I found, particularly because I like a bigger, thicker, not thicker, but a bigger bag that can accommodate more like a Q-snap or something. Over time, I might offer, think about making a tutorial of some kind, if time allows, but only when I feel confident that like I'm telling you how to do things properly and not sending you off on a wild goose chase for a frustration experience. But anyway, I'm super thrilled. One last comment on this. This fabric line, for those who might be interested, is Country Rose by Lella Boutique from Moda. So yeah, if you have a pulse and a sewing machine and a bucket of patience and a seam ripper, you too can have a beautiful patchwork project bag. All right, that's it for today for us. So we'll just tell you what our plans are for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll let you get on to your next Flosstube video. So I am going to spend one more day working on cabin fever. One more day working on that. So we'll see how far I get on that. Then I'm going to spend a few days working on Rose Trellis In. It won't get its full week in rotation because I'm heading to Tanzania before that week is up. So it'll get a little shortchanged this time, but that's just life. And then I am going to take my my new sampler with me. So last time you saw my brand new start on Faith of the Heart by With Thy Needle and Thread. I'm taking that with me to Tanzania along with my travel stitching. I probably just, given my travel schedule, it might be another couple videos before you see the Butterfly Port Mauve again, just because I won't have time to work on it on weekends. And then Gary, as he said, is going to be working on both Louis Armstrong and Women Who Don't Behave or Do Behave or something like that.
Historical women who made history
by not behaving.
By not behaving.
Disbehaving women.
That's what we call it.
So yeah, that's our plans. Gary, do you want to talk about who our action figure host is that brought the video to us today? No,
I didn't.
Oh.
No, actually, I do. It's Guardians of the Galaxy figures. It's a rare one because they have what they call Build-A-Figures, and you buy all of the figures, and there's parts to one in there that you can build. In this case, it was the dog Cosmo, who I really wanted, so I had to get all of the other figures to get him. But it's from the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 movie. Yep, it's all of them right there on the table there.
You don't have Gamora.
Yeah, I do. Well, no, actually, she wasn't part of this one.
Oh,
That's a good point, but she, I guess, wasn't in this movie. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But at any rate, there is a Gamora figure I want to get. It's a Marvel Legends figure, and it's from the What If cartoon series. If you like this sort of thing or know somebody who does, have them check out What If on Disney, and you can see what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, that's the figures for today.
awesome. I love Cosmo. He's like probably top 5 of all of your action figures for me. I just think he's so cool.
Space Dog.
Space Dog.
He's from Russia. He's a Russian space dog.
So that does it for us today. We hope you enjoyed our video. If you did, we would really love it if you gave us the thumbs up. Just like that. If you're, well, no, hit the thumbs up button. I mean, you can thumbs up at the screen all you want, but that's only going to give you.
I'm simulating a click here. There you go.
There you go. Please feel free to leave a comment. We love interacting with you in the comments. I don't always get to do like a text reply to you, but I do try and make sure I heart all the comments so you know we've seen it and read it. If you're not a subscriber already, we would love it if you would subscribe and hit the bell so you get notifications when we post a new video. And if you want to follow us between videos, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm a little bit sporadic with my posting, but I try and update at least a couple times a month. But that's globetrotting_Stitcher. And you can also email me at globetrottingstitcher@gmail.com. So we hope that you're doing well. We hope that you're staying safe. Those of you in the Northern Hemisphere who, I mean, it's like I could name regions and countries that have been suffering under the horrible heat and wildfires because it's literally all over the world. But we've been thinking about you and praying for you. I'm glad to see summer finally winding down, temperatures starting to cool off in some places. And so I hope that continues for everyone. Those of you who have been hit by loss or what have you from the various fires, our thoughts are very much with you. Yeah, and Southern Hemisphere, enjoy the rest of your winter. We're all envying you. So we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks again for spending some time with us today. Happy stitching. See you soon.
Remember,
Remember, thumbs up.
Yeah, okay, bye.
Bye.